Pakistan cricket is the drama capital of world cricket. Only they can stretch it and take it this far. What should have been an easy chase ended up being one full of twists and turns, one where Pakistan threatened to do what they often do, which is to lose a game that they should have won. Well, this one they have won by 3 wickets, 111 for 7 towards the end. Babar Azam and the 2 Afridis saved them the blushes. Mohammad Rizwan also contributing with 17. Those 2 contributions down the order don't show up on this card, but very, very crucial. But it's a game that Ireland had a whiff off, had a sniff off, didn't they?
Much more than a sniff off. And you have to say a sniff off in conditions which were far more conducive to batting than in Ireland's case. The pitch seemed to have... The devils that we saw in the first half of the game was not there. The pitch seemed to be playing better. At least all the first 5 Pakistani batsmen literally committed harakiri.
Michael, this Pakistan lineup was on 2 missions. One was to win this game, and the other one was to ensure you don't reach home in time for the England-Serbia game.
Well, you could argue that there was a Pakistan side that was looking to lose at one stage. I mean, they played with such a timid nature. They almost showed their fragility with that batting display because, there was a bit of bounce there. And I don't think it's been a great surface to bat on. I think some of these poor pitches have created the best games. There have been some tremendous games of cricket, but it almost exposed the confidence levels of the Pakistan batting unit today. Because that should have been a game where you stroll the chase down in about the 16th, 17th over, 3 down. It actually suited Babar, the way that he played. He just played with great class control. He didn't have to, obviously, up his strike rate. He just had to hang in there, just hit the boundary every now and again, just play with good technique, good sensible approach, and he gets them over the line. I'm pleased they've got over the line because I wouldn't have wanted to be that Pakistan team to get home having lost to Ireland on the back of having them 28 for 5.
Well, it would have been a 45-minute long show had Pakistan lost this one because then we'd have so much to talk about. Ireland came close, but the dismissals, none of them were of great deliveries. No. Just poor batting.
Yeah, right up front, I think they were just trying to attack too much. Saim Ayub went out that way. Then Rizwan just hit it down the throat of, I think it was deep square leg.
Yep.
And then, Fakhar Zaman again trying to loft the ball, going early to go off in mid-off. So I think the kind of dismissals you saw, only Shadab, as I said, down leg side, that can happen to you. You're just trying to flick a ball, get a very fine edge, goes to the keeper, that happens. Yeah. But the rest of them, a lot of them were just, and at the conditions that they were in. Say, Imad, at the situation he was in, it was ideal for him. And it's very ironic because Imad has been speaking about just about this, the mentality of winning and fear of losing, overtaking the need to win.
Yeah.
And I think he just did what he was talking about today. And it's ironic because they had all the time in the world. In fact, Babar Azam held his nerve, held one side, didn't panic throughout, and was there and made sure that whoever was taking risks was taking it on the other side.
Saim Ayub had a great chance up top with not a big score to chase. I thought he was in 2 minds. Initially, he took his time. He was 2 of 10, then hit a big 6. And then one thought that he was just trying to hit every ball out of the park. Is that a sign of a player not confident about his place in the side? Is it that insecurity that was playing on his mind that maybe this is my last chance to impress the experts? Oh, sorry, the selectors or the board?
Well, I hope it's not his last chance because he's a wonderful player and he's the future of Pakistan cricket. But I guess he's just trying to work out his method. He's probably at that stage of his career that he's not sure which style of player he's going to be. Is he going to be the ultra-aggressor at the top of the order? Is he going to be the stylish player? He's just trying to work that out. When you're chasing 107, you generally always say if one player comes off early, it's game done and dusted. So I can understand why 2 from 10, he hits a couple of boundaries and he tries to hit many, many more, which is exactly the way that he should be playing. As I say, I just look at the way that Pakistan bat, and it's very rare that you kind of say this about any world batting lineup, but I don't think any bowler would be running into bowl fearful of bowling to many of those players.
Yeah.
Babar, at the minute he's not hurting you, but he's staying in. He obviously gets him over the line. Fakhar Zaman can hit a ball, but he hits one straight down mid-off throat. Maybe that's a little bit in 2 minds. Should he go hard or should he just try and play sensible? That's probably a little bit of a mentality issue. But I don't think there's many batters that Pakistan have at the minute where the world bowlers will be running and, we're really fearful of bowling to this batting unit. I just think they haven't got the power at the minute in that unit. Now,
in this lineup, the top 5 are openers. Is it difficult for openers to play in the middle order, play an industrious innings where you have to just milk the singles? Is it difficult?
See, I think
because you're expecting the ball to come on at all times.
I think that's the one lost art. And I think it's this thing which is that getting singles. I think that they're not. None of these batters are able to rotate the strike. In fact, the one player who was rotating the strike to a certain extent was Babar Azam.
Yep.
And all the rest were just trying to whack the ball out of the park. And I think that's the one thing that they look at. Also, this is not a great surface for hitting fours.
Yeah.
You still get away by hitting sixes because it doesn't matter then.
Yeah.
But the moment you're trying to hit fours and you're chipping it up, the ball just sitting once it lands because the surface is so, outfield surface is so soft that it's losing all momentum after that.
Yeah.
So I think that is one of the issues that you're bothered about.
7 to 10 overs was that phase where it was a bit of a horror show where they lost 3 in quick succession. They were 40 for 2 in the power play, which seemed all right, Michael, and then suddenly they seemed to lose their way. So there just didn't seem to be a batting plan in this innings.
Well, that little spell, 7 to 10, that was Pakistan at its finest. That's what they do. They just allow the opposition back into the game. They played some strange shots around that time.
Yeah.
You know, full credit to Ireland, particularly the seams. I thought they ran in and hit the pitch hard.
Yeah.
I thought the captain was excellent as well, Paul Stirling. He almost like front-loaded the seamers because he knew he had to try and bowl Pakistan out. He felt that the seamers were going to do the job, and they were doing so he kind of front-loaded his bowling options. So I enjoyed the captaincy of Paul Stirling. And I think sometimes, you know, Pakistan are a team with just no confidence. And so we've got to be reasonable in our criticism that, you know, if Pakistan are playing well and, you know, they bat like that, you go, come on, that's not the way that you should be playing. But they're just so low in confidence, and I can only imagine that dressing room and the fear.
Yeah.
Now, Imad Wasim talks about the fear of playing, you know, for Pakistan. I can only imagine the fear factor when they were 50 odd for 5, and they needed 50 odd more to beat an Irish side, and they know that they're getting on the plane tomorrow morning. There'd have been a nervy set of Pakistan players, and particularly the coach Gary Kirsten. You know, he's only just starting out with his team. So I think the positive for Pakistan is that Gary Kirsten has had a few games and a tournament to find out about some of these players. I'm pretty sure they'll be better off next time.
From being 52 for 2 to being 57 for 5, and Fakhar Zaman was the first in that passage between 7 and 10. If he's opened the innings, I'm sure he's expected to have the game awareness to keep the innings going. The strange shot he played, trying to loft it over mid-off.
Look, exactly. That's what I think. That he's an excellent player. I think he is probably their most natural T20 player that they have in the top end. The kind of batter who can really do damage. I think just the kind of shot making, it was careless. He just tried to loft it over mid-off, didn't get enough elevation on it. And it's a kind of shot that you hit normally slightly later in the innings. He just wanted to take on camphor very early for some reason. And I think that's the thing. They look at themselves, and you're right. There was too much in this game. They had lots to lose in this game and not enough to gain. Because no matter what they did in this game, even if they won it, I mean, nobody's going to sit and have garlands waiting for them when they land in Lahore Airport. So either way, they're and if they lose, it's even worse for them. So I think there's nothing to gain and lots to lose. Is a bad situation psychologically. I think it played on them.
Right. Also, Shadab Khan, the Cricbuzz app and all of the cricket portals refer to him as an all-rounder. Is that a misnomer? Has Shadab done... I mean, he should do well in such a situation, right? Stay with the captain, finish the game.
Yeah, I mean, and he'll be in that dressing room now thinking, why didn't I do that? I mean, he's not had a great time of it. I think he's a good cricketer. You know, he's the kind of cricketer that I just think if you can get him some confidence and belief, you know, he's a three-dimensional player. He bowls quality leg spin when he's at his best. He's a good batter, and he's a good fielder. So, again, I'm just looking from a perspective of Gary Kirsten. All right, Shadab's not had a great tournament, but I think he'll be a cricketer that I want to take on the bus with him. You know, I'm looking at quite a few of these players and thinking, I think Gary will fancy getting something out, a lot more out of them than they have done already in this tournament. But I just think there's such a lack of belief in that unit. You know, you just can see it all the way through the team. They just do not believe that they can play quality cricket consistently, and that's been the case now for quite a few months. That they've just not managed to get on a winning streak. They've had no real combinations. If I said to you, come on, give me a batting combination for Pakistan in T20 cricket, you go Babar and maybe Rizwan. That's it, really. Whereas when you look at real quality teams, you kind of work down the order and you can see combinations that work quite consistently. They've got to try and find that from somewhere, but I think it's going to be a longer road than potentially some other Pakistan teams that have failed in the past, because I just don't think they've got the quality in the team.
Although, to be fair to Shadab, today was a bit of a strange dismissal, getting caught down the leg side. So, barring Shadab's dismissal, the others were just strange shots. Now, the Irish bowling, safe to say, Joy, that they did everything they could, kept it simple, kept asking questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Adair up front swung the ball well. He was asking questions all the time. He was bowling those right kind of lengths. And I was really pleasantly surprised by Barry McCarthy. Wasn't doing much with the ball, but just kept it at good lengths. The batters kept trying to attack him and kept giving him wickets. And I think that's one of the things of sticking to your tasks. And very often in pitches like this, you just keep the ball at the right areas and let the pitch do the rest. I mean, they weren't trying to be particularly clever, and I thought they bowled very well. I think they missed out a bit because I think Josh Little was injured. And so they didn't finish his spell. Maybe the captain would have liked one more over of pace bowling, trying to get Babar Azam out. Those little things make a difference as well in the end, but it didn't happen.
I'll go back to the batting of Ireland. If you go back to the way that the Irish batted, they played in one gear. Now, if they'd have just, early on, they saw the ball swing now, if they'd have just gone, look, let's get to 120. 120, 130 by just playing conventionally, a little bit of the old school stuff. Maybe we get a cameo down the back end that gets us to 140, but let's aim for 120, 130. I think they set out to try and get 160, 170 with the way that they started in that power play. And I just think in this tournament, there's been so many pitches that have been completely different to what we all expected. That the teams batting first, I just want them to have more of a sense that the 170 is not a par score. 130 on some of these decks is a par score. Just get to that and say to the opposing team, go on, good luck chasing it. I just think if they'd have played with a little bit more sense, I think they could have got that 120, 125, and how they needed 20 extra runs at the end.
This is although the end of the USA leg of this T20 World Cup, so batters will heave a sigh of relief, and we have come to the end of all the league stage matches in Group A. Clearly, safe to say that USA have been the most entertaining story of this World Cup, not just of this Group A.
Absolutely. I mean, you're a home team, famous victory, and not only do you have a victory, both your victories are, from behind victories. I mean, in one you're chasing more than 190, you're chasing 193, and you're 20 for 2 and you make it. The other match, you're in a similar situation where, 11 to get the last 3 balls to reach a super over, and somebody hits a 6, a single and a 4. So I think that's it. They have actually held their nerve. We talk about holding nerve, they have actually held their nerve. But I just also want to go back to one thing. Exactly what Michael has been talking about. That normally, I told you, in the IPL, whenever, KKR at his heydays used to bat, when Jacques Kallis used to go out, the moment he got out, or the new batsman came in or he got out, he'd walk out and say 140 wicket, 130 wicket. And everyone then set their expectations accordingly because, somebody with a little bit of sense had a sense of, okay, what this wicket is, and called it and said, okay, this is what this wicket is going to give you. I mean, 140 is a good score or a decent score, pass score on this wicket. And I think nobody is doing that in these cases. Nobody is going down and saying, this is...
I reckon the players of this era have this this kind of mantra of having to whack the ball. And I understand it. That's the game of T20 cricket. But there's a little bit of ego in that. They all want to play the fancy shots and hit the boundaries. There's not many of them want to do the ugly work, which, go and get a 30 off 28, or 30 even off 34. That's pretty much what Babar got towards the back end to win them a game. There's not many want to get those ugly runs and nick the ones and the twos because I have a feeling that they go back in the dressing room and probably get a bit of Mickey taken out of them. Why weren't you hitting the boundaries? Where was the big hits? I just sense that that what I'm talking about is can they just read the pitch and read the conditions that little bit better and play a different style of cricket to get to that number. I'm not too sure there's much conversation around that in this era.
I don't remember. I mean, there's one particular instance that I think both of us were sitting outside and watching. And it was, I think, Tector or Tector, one of them. And they're 28 for 4. And he tries the reverse sweep. And you're looking at him and saying, your straight bat is not connecting. You're 28 for 4. There's a first slip standing out there. And you're trying a reverse. What was going on? So when you look at that and you say, clearly shot selection is now completely there on that high dial 200, 220 score shot selection, and they can't seem to dial it down and say, okay, this is now a 120 wicket and this is not how I need to bat out here.
The only other story that goes past the bizarreness of this story is Mohammad Rizwan playing dot balls of Hardik and Siraj, and then playing a cross-parrot hoik of Jasprit Bumrah. Safe to say that Pakistan's batting has lost to itself in this World Cup. If they had won that game against India, they might as well, they might have just qualified.
Rizwan stayed in, they had won.
Yeah.
Yeah, without any question. I mean, Pakistan win that game, they're in the Super 8s. Simple as that.
Right, what about Group B? England had a bit of a scare at one stage, but then that big win against Oman, chasing 40 or I think it was, that helped them work on their net run rate as well. And that's why they have gone past Scotland. They had to share points with Scotland because of that rained-out game, England-Scotland. There was just 10 overs of play where they conceded 90 or I think, but then there was no further play possible. England will do well to forget about what happened in that group stage.
Well, I think they're starting to get going. You know, I think the performance against Oman, all right, it's only Oman, but I think the way that they dismantled Oman was very impressive. They're a very dangerous team.
Yep.
You know, you speak to all the other teams around the world, and I think Josh Hazlewood's comments were tongue-in-cheek, but there was a little bit of sense in that. You know, why would you want England to go through?
Yeah.
You know, who wants to play England in the Super 8s semi-final? They're a team that historically have done well in this tournament. If you look at the history of the T20 tournaments, England have always been there or thereabouts, semi-final, finals. So they're a very, very... I think they've actually stumbled across their best team last night.
It'll be a mistake to judge England by what they've done thus far? It'll be a different team in the Super 8s?
Again, I mean, the only match with which we are judging them is really the match against Australia, who are also a top side themselves. I mean, you look at it, there's no other match. And perhaps the bowling that they did against Scotland and allowed them to get to 90 for no loss in 10. So I think those are the two things you're judging them by. I think he's right, you know, getting that left arm seamer in, getting Curran in, you know, replacing a bat, you know, Will Jacks with Curran. I think it's just changed things around a bit, and I think they've got it going now.
What I will say is that the last T20 World Cup that England won, they didn't play great. They did a similar thing to what they've done here, played poorly, and they get to the semis, they beat India, and you know they just managed to get over the line. The one thing I'll say that's different, I think, now to then is I think back then they had a real aura about them in white ball cricket.
Yeah.
There was a big amount of fear.
And everything.
There was a huge amount of fear from the way that they play. You know, Owen Morgan had left his great team. You know, Ben Stokes was in there. I don't think this white ball England side has that aura.
Yep.
I do think teams feel that they can get them. So I'll be very intrigued to see how England cope without that massive aura that they used to have to try and get through the Super 8s and into the semis and obviously into the final. It's going to take some doing.
Fun Super 8s coming up. Just the one spot left in the Super 8s. Now, before we go to Group C, let's take a look at Group D. Let's see what's happened in that group where you will see one team having qualified. That's the South Africans. They were pushed a little bit by the Netherlands and then they found their groove. Bangladesh and Netherlands. Two contenders, Joy. One spot, the only spot up for grabs. Which way is this going? Bangladesh clearly better placed with 2 extra points.
Yeah, and Bangladesh play Nepal, I think, in their last encounter.
Yep.
And the Netherlands take on Sri Lanka. So, look, I think Bangladesh, Nepal, though Nepal had a fantastic game against South Africa, they really pushed them. But I think you have to say that Bangladesh have the advantage on that.
Yep.
And if they win it, all the Sri Lankans do them a favour and knock out on the other side. Sri Lanka can still do them a favour as well. So it's really the Netherlands is in a more difficult situation. I'd say at this point, Bangladesh is in pole position. To expect Nepal to beat them, Nepal could have 2 wonderful games in a row, but it's going to be tough for them.
Right, tomorrow we'll see a Group C game between 2 teams that have already been knocked out. One of them is a shocker. It's New Zealand versus the Papua New Guinea, and they feature in Group C. That's where it is. New Zealand for the first time after 2014 not qualifying for the semi-finals of a white ball tournament. Does that surprise you?
I think from their first match they've looked undercooked and they've looked tired and undercooked and they haven't looked ready for this tournament. And it's not a question of preparation more than that. As I said, we've been talking about a situation where you have a lot of players, you know, in the IPL who are not playing on a regular basis. Yeah. You know, from a Lockie Ferguson to many of the batters are just sitting out there. I mean, only Bolt and all are playing on a regular basis. But Kane Williamson has been sitting there in the Gujarat camp for a long time. Santner has been sitting out there. Glenn Phillips hasn't been getting games. Rachin Ravindra has been in and out. Lockie Ferguson has not been getting games. So that's the problem with them. I think lack of match practice is one serious factor, and they all went back.
Yep.
They all went back home to New Zealand from India and then came.
Yeah.
So they haven't really had much time. Look, that's not an excuse because normally they still turn up and do well, but this time's not it.
Just the one win. There's 2 points on that points table are because of that win against Uganda. It was a big win and the only win for New Zealand, unfortunately. That's where it is for New Zealand, and they'll be hoping to bow out with a massive win against the Papua New Guinea side, which have lost 3 in 3 now. For this game tomorrow, would you maybe bring in Anish Sodhi, who hasn't had a game thus far? Or would you go in with your best possible 11?
Oh, you go with your best 11. I mean, tomorrow's all about Trent Boult. You know, Trent Boult's last game for New Zealand in T20 cricket. He's been an incredible performer. And that's why I was talking the other day about this New Zealand side. Kane Williamson hasn't got a great deal of time left. He's feeling white ball cricket. There's a good few young players. Devon Conway's got plenty left. Rachin Ravindra is probably the new star in world cricket with obviously his batting. Tim Southee, he's coming towards the back end of his career. Obviously no Boult from here on in. I just look at New Zealand and they've done remarkably well. They really have for the last 15, 20 years. They've just always punched above their weight. But what's waiting underneath? Do they have players that can come in? How are they going to replace Trent Boult? He's been the kind of the standard of what New Zealand cricket is all about. Is almost been led by Trent Boult with the ball in hand.
Yeah.
With the bat in hand, it's been Kane Williamson. But with the ball in hand, it's been Southee and Boult. And a bit like Broad and Anderson, who are obviously coming to an end with Jimmy playing his last Test match in a couple of weeks. When Southee and Boult go from New Zealand, I don't know how you replace those two.
Winds of change in New Zealand cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. And Southee in India is never rated. And the reason is that he's such a wonderful swinger of the ball. We never see him in good conditions. I mean, Southee, the kind of pitches poor man comes to India and sees. But Southee, in pitches that help, is a genuine. He's a great as well. So he and Trent Boult going out together is a huge blow for them. And while Matt Henry is decent, it's hardly you've had 2 bowlers who bowled literally 14, 15 years for you.
You'll have a lot of romantic cricket writers waxing eloquent about the impact that Trent Boult has had, especially in the power play in T20 cricket. His last dance then.
His last dance, but I think, given his fitness and given, I think what he wants to do is probably play a few T20 leagues around the world.
Yeah.
And I think he's good enough to do that for at least another couple of years.
Yep.
And I think that's the point. He deserves to give his family the opportunity to have that kind of financial security.
I reckon Shaheen Shah Afridi's very close as well. I reckon both Shaheen and Trent Boult are the best ever first over of a T20 game bowlers in the world. Yeah. They just always seem to get a wicket or 2 in the first over.
They will fancy themselves the Kiwis against Papua New Guinea, and nothing's gone right for them. This is truly baptism by fire. It's not been a good tournament at all.
Yeah. And I mean, the one match that they would have hoped to win against Uganda, they went down. And if you see that, none of their top players have really fired for them. Asad Walla is a player that their captain, he's inspirational. He's not done anything for them today. This man, Hiri's not done well. Tony Ura's not done. The players who have actually performed for them is Kipling Doriga, who's really batted well, got a couple of 20s, was unbeaten on one of them. Yeah. And of course, Sese Bau, who got a 50, a really good 50 against the West Indies. So those 2 batters have really given them something. And think in bowling, he's the only consistent bowler. He's been taking wickets for them. He's taken 4 wickets so far. And he's the only bowler, right arm medium pace who's looked effective. So look, they're just happy to be a part of this dance. I think of all the associate nations, they and Uganda perhaps were the weakest of the lot. Every other associate nation has really actually, whether you look at Canada, whether you look at all the rest of them, they've all given you 1 or 2 matches where you've looked and said, there's real potential here.
Expect a call from PNG Cricket because there's only one man on this planet who can speak about their team and their performance with such elan and such confidence. Joy Bhattacharya in the house. Just one more question. Maybe bring in Jack Gardner in for this game for Legasaka?
Possible. You can make a substitution, but at this point in time, they would give everyone a chance because this is also a very tough game for them. So I would definitely give them a chance. I would definitely like to see Charles Amini playing as well.
One player to watch out for from New Zealand, Michael.
New Zealand. Trent Boult. Trent Boult's last game.
Yep.
I think. Well, he had a nice night out the other night.
Yep.
And I think he'll end up with 2 or 3 wickets tomorrow night.
For me, Asad Walla, because he has really been their top player throughout, and he's had a very disappointing. Well, just 27 runs so far is just not good enough. So I think he needs to give it to them. He needs to prove it on his last, probably. And for Papua New Guinea to come here has been a fantastic journey. He's been a part of so much of the journey. I'd like to see him end well.
Right, that is the end of that. Well, not yet, because we haven't given you the answer to Joy Factor. Joy, all yours. It was a tricky one today.
Yep, and the answer is, it is as Michael caught it immediately. What unique incident happened of a Mashrab Mortaza wicket? The game was against Kenya. It was a Kenya-Bangladesh wicket. Hitesh Modi got out and he was given LBW by his father, the umpire Subhash Modi.
Wow.
So it's the only instance so far in international cricket where the father has given a decision on the son.
You know the pressure of being a cricketer's father, Michael?
He'll find out a lot more about it soon.
But young Mr. Vaughan is doing well. He's on his way to big things, hopefully.
Well, we hope so. Yeah, he's enjoying it, which is amazing. He's got to finish his exams. He's got his exam finishes on Tuesday. Then he can start to focus a bit more on the
He's
ball.
a Somerset boy, right?
He's at Somerset, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just surprised that Yorkshire is not giving you calls. Where's that boy going?
Now, the winner's father will have a big smile on his or her face. Let's find out who the winner is, Joy.
Akash. I think Akash has won quite a few.
One of our regulars, isn't he?
Yep. Yeah, and he won it a couple of days back. Just a couple of days back. Well done, Akash. That was tough. That isn't easy.
Right. There are many other fathers who are hoping that their sons and one daughter also a part of this group who are competing in this guessing game leaderboard. Where is Sayami here on this group? She sent us a few lovely mangoes from her farm. Has that helped her cause on this graphic? Yes or no? No, she's done it before. Michael Vaughan.
Look at
100.
that. Thank you very much.
Michael Vaughan has gone straight up there.
100%. Can you believe it? I'm actually happy just to be in the left column.
Yeah. Now what you need to do is not have games rained out for a few days.
Yeah, just retire tonight.
I might do a Gareth and just not come in for a few days.
I think we're getting you in for a 6 a.m. game, aren't we? Are we?
You might see me in the semi-finals.
When you come back, order the same food you did tonight. Helps. Trust me. GK told me that. Right, we're done. Oh, no. I've got a couple of other questions. Michael, Declan Rice, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Foden, Bellingham, Saka, Harry Kane start. What are England's chances against Serbia?
Well, England are a good team. They have to win. This is the year for. I mean, we've been saying it since 1966. That we got to the final against Italy last time in the Euros at Wembley. We lost on. We're getting better at penalties, but not in the final. So we need to go and score a few more goals and make sure that it doesn't go to penalties.
Can I tell you that RCB learned it's coming home from them?
Yeah, I must admit, I'm worried about Germany.
Every time they say it's coming home, exactly.
But a little more on Gareth Southgate's lineup. Trippier left back, Kyle Walker right back.
I'm happy with the 11. Yeah, and we've got a strong bench as well. We've got a load of talent on the bench, load of attacking options.
It's 12:08. Michael Vaughan has to run to his hotel room to make sure he reaches his room just in time for the national anthem. I'm going to run as well. I've got some dishes to clean. We'll see you tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Good night.